Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and we got a lot to get to today, so let's just get right to it. My co-hosts today are Mr. Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
Ms. Janelle Wheeler.
Hey, everybody.
And joining us for the first time on Comic Book Nation, one of our comics experts, gaming experts. We're happy to have him. Mr. Logan Moore is with us.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
And we had to bring Logan on for his expertise about a particular comic that we are about to kind of discuss, which has just become a new show on Amazon and is quickly gaining steam. And we had to bring the creator of the series on to talk about it and so many other things with us. So we would like to welcome to Comic Book Nation, Mr. Robert Kirkman.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, I hate to start off with this, but technically co-creator. Corey Walker co-created Invincible with me. Got to give that guy credit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. We are a comic book podcast, and we are very much sensitive to that. So co-creator, and we wanted to give all credits where credit is due. But this is why we have Logan here, because our real Invincible expert is Mr. Logan Moore. And for his first time on the show, we thought he should be able to pitch the first question to you, Mr. Robert Kirkman.
All right.
This is intense to bring me on and put the pressure of you're the Invincible expert. Ask Robert Kirkman the questions you've always been wanting to ask.
No pressure.
We do
no pressure at all.
We kind of do auditions like that Social Network movie where they just like had people coding and taking shots. That's kind of what we learned from that. So that's what we're trying to do here. So you're up, kid. Go for it.
Robert, yeah, I mean, the show's been awesome so far. We talked beforehand a little bit. Like, I've read all the comics, so obviously I'm familiar with the source material. Seeing this come to life in an animated form has been crazy and is something I never really expected when I was reading the comic books 5-6 years ago when the run was still going on. What I've enjoyed the most is like seeing everybody's reactions to it. And I assume that's something you've enjoyed as well. But what I've also really enjoyed, especially with this most recent episode, is that you guys are starting to change some things. There were some things that happened at the end of episode 5. We're recording this, I guess, before 6 comes out. There were some things before episode 5 or at the end of episode 5 that I was not expecting. What has that process been like for you guys creating it to not only make it something that new fans want to get into, but also people like myself kind of keeping me on my toes, not really knowing what you guys are going to throw next?
Yeah. I mean, I think with everything I do, part of the appeal is that you don't really know what's going to happen next. I really enjoy surprising people, and I really enjoy keeping people on the edge of their seat. And so when it comes to adapting something, I'm aware that there is a segment of the audience that is going to have some kind of awareness as to where the story may be going. And it's really fun to, play against those expectations and get in there and mix things up. I mean, we're working with a very talented writing team. I mean, I'm not doing any of these scripts. I mean, I wrote the first episode and the last episode of the season, and then I'm collaborating with everybody on all the episodes in between. And it's fun for me because it's kind of like a second draft of the comic book series to a certain extent. This is a comic book series that I wrote, many, many years in my past. And it's fun to get in there and dig out the issues and go, okay, well, the story might be better if we do this, and we can add a character that does this, and we can, focus on this aspect that we didn't necessarily focus on much in the comics. And, it's fun to get in there and tweak things.
Yeah, I heard you talk, and I think in like a previous interview about how the big reveal at the end of episode 1, I'm still not going to say it in case anybody's going to, binge watch the whole show once all the episodes come out.
Invincible's revealed to be an ant person.
Yeah, maybe one day, something along those lines. But yeah, the reveal at the end of episode 1, you obviously push forward a little bit more because I heard you say that you wanted to keep everybody a little bit more interested from the outset, and one of those things you could tweak. Is this something you're planning on doing, I guess, moving forward into the future of the show as well? I mean, I know you've not got anything announced outside of the first 8 episodes, but are you going to keep tweaking things and maybe moving things around in the timeline of where things happen in the comics? Yeah,
I think that we have the benefit of hindsight when it comes to adapting the 144 issue run. And, I have to admit that the comic book series, I very much had like benchmarks that I wanted to get to, and there were always larger stories I was working toward, but there was a little bit of meandering along the way. And, I was very much making things up as I went along in a lot of places over that run. And so to be able to streamline things, and rearrange things. I think you can already see, the material. I mean, the material in episode 4 actually took place after the material that's in episode 5 in the comic book series, and both of the majority of the stories from those 2 episodes took place much later in the comic book series than they are taking place now. There's events that haven't happened, very big events that haven't happened yet in the show that had already happened with the Mars story and the and the Titan story. I was thinking about episode 6 for a minute, and
I was going to say,
like,
tell us what happens in episode 8. I mean, so you bring up you actually set me up for the next thing I wanted to ask you right away too, because one of my favorite things about the comic is that you would set things up like 20 issues in advance sometimes, where you just turn the page and there's a one-off couple pages where just things are happening. You're like, I don't, who is this guy? Who's this Angstrom Levy person? What is going on? Yeah. And you start setting those things up like way far in advance before the payoffs happen. Has that been hard to adapt for the TV show, I guess? Maybe laying that groundwork for what you want to do in the future, especially because, like I said, nothing's greenlit past the first 8 episodes. So I'm sure you don't want to throw out too many things and set too many things up for the future if future seasons don't happen, which they should happen. And I
like to live dangerously. So there was never any consideration made for, well, this might be the only season. Like, we definitely peppered in stuff that we plan to address in seasons 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, should they happen, fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit at the risk of getting in trouble and just say the Cahor opening at the beginning of episode 4, which was written by Ryan Ridley, who is absolutely brilliant. Like, we plan to come back to that at some point. That was, to me, like one of the cool subplots from the comics, where it's like Ryan came in and was like, I've got this idea for this opening that's like this really complicated, like, mummy ritual thing, and then it's just a gag because Invincible's flying by. I don't know if that's okay. And I was like, oh my God, like, that is the absolute perfect thing for this show. That is, it's like a cool subplot from the comic that isn't actually from the comic. And a lot of the executives on the show, when the script went in, said, well, this, and I'll spoil something. So I'm spoiling something now. So get ready. They're like, well, this doesn't come back this season. Like, you can't do this. Like, people are going to want to know what's going on with Cahor. And I was like, no, it's a gag in the desert right now. But in season 4, when all of the heroes have to band together to fight Cahor, like, it's going to be a cool thing that it was just this throwaway gag in season 1 that came back to be this, major story in the future. And that's kind of the charm of this show. And it took a lot of convincing to get them to go, oh, okay, yeah, all right, you're a weirdo. I guess we'll let you have your fun. But yeah, it's it was a little bit of work to try and maintain that sense of weirdness, I guess, from the comics, but thankfully we have. So anyway, if you're looking forward to the return of Cahor in season 1 of Invincible, it is not happening.
There's an exclusive.
You've got to wait.
Robert, you're one of the most interesting figures to me about kind of getting into this, going from the process of the comic book page to these big mainstream projects and adapting them. We've seen something like The Walking Dead, which obviously took its own path and became its own thing. And we've seen Invincible, which you just kind of discussed, maybe closer to the comics, but still has tweaks going on. I'm really interested about Invincible specifically because now that we've seen this animated show and fans are really kind of getting into it, there still is a separate Invincible movie project going on. Yes. And it's so interesting to me that these are 2 adaptations coming. Can you talk a little bit about that process, about what the animated show is achieving versus what you see happening with the live action film?
This is one of those uncomfortable questions that I get from time to time. Another one is, so what's going on with the Rick Grimes movie? Which may have been coming later. I don't know. And it's frustrating because there is nothing I can really talk about publicly, even though there's 1,000 things that I know in my head and all kinds of cool things that I can't wait to talk about, but I'm just not allowed to reveal anything yet. There is a lot of care being put into the development of the live action Invincible movie to make sure that it is true to the comics and also very different from the animated series. And there are things that the animated series is not doing that the live action movie will be able to do, but I can't focus on those things or talk about those things because it is unfortunately too early. But it is a really unique situation to be doing the two of them simultaneously, and it's really cool to be able to sit back and go, okay, the animated series is going to cover this, the movie is going to cover this, this is the kind of story we tell in the movie, this is the kind of story we tell in the show, and making sure that both of those things are kind of tailor-made for their different audiences, and will be unique and exciting experiences that can be enjoyed separately, but will also form an overall like Invincible tapestry where you'll be like, oh, there's this thing could be so many different things. I'm sorry for the vagueness of that answer.
No, it's great.
That's
so
perfect.
you can't tell us that we're going to have any casting overlaps, like maybe Steven Yeun in that lead role. I love him so much.
If we could somehow make Steven Yeun 17 again.
Yes. He looks so young. He's great.
He does.
He
does.
fabulous skin.
Until he takes his shirt off and he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you're like, I've never seen a 17-year-old like that.
I'm totally cool with that. Which kind of brings us to our next thing. You just announced that your Skybound X anniversary project, celebrating 10 years of Skybound comics, by the way, congratulations. Yes. It will feature new stories about Rick Grimes, The Walking Dead, and some other characters that we know from the Walking Dead universe. Really just want to know, can you tease anything for us? Can you give us anything that wasn't in the initial press release?
I don't know. I will clarify that this is the very talented Tilly Walden that is doing a handcrafted Clementine story all of her own, which will
so cool.
Definitely relate to the video games in some really cool ways, and definitely exists in continuity, in canon, in universe. So if you're a huge fan of those games and you're jonesing for some more Clementine, this is where you'll find it for now. The Rick Grimes story that we're doing is a very different Rick Grimes than is in the comic book. Basically so here's what happened for anyone who doesn't know. In Walking Dead issue 2, 3, 8, so on, there were letters columns, and in the letters columns, I would get letters where people would say things like, I'm really enjoying this series, but I don't see how it has legs. I feel like it's going to run out of steam by like issue 25. And as much as I love it, I really don't want you to, run out of ideas. I don't know how you're going to keep this thing going for any amount of time. And in hindsight, it seems kind of funny, but at the time, valid concern. But I would always answer by saying, you're absolutely right. I'm definitely going to run out of steam, but I'm going to keep this thing going no matter what. So I'm probably going to run out of ideas around issue 75, and then I'm going to have aliens invade. And so when we got to issue 75, in the print version of issue 75, I enlisted Ryan Otley, the artist on Invincible, to do a zany Walking Dead story in the back where aliens invaded, and all of the Walking Dead characters, for lack of a better term, became superheroes and fought zombies and aliens at the same time. And it was like an 8-page story. And I did it in a way that there was a cliffhanger in the issue, and then there was the letters column, and then I did a fake page that Charlie drew that led into the alien invading story. So it seemed like it was in the actual story, aside from there being a letters column in between them. And so I did get letters where people were like, "You've ruined the book. What are you doing? This is ridiculous."
I think it's amazing.
Michonne has a lightsaber, and there's aliens everywhere, and the governor's back, and he's got like a big crab claw thing. But it was just a bit of fun, and that story has never been reprinted. And so a lot of people aren't even aware it exists. But if you go back and find a back issue of Walking Dead 75, you'll see that. When we were coming up for the 10th anniversary and we were talking about doing this thing, I was like, well, that 8 pages has never been reprinted anywhere. A lot of people don't know it exists, so let's dig that out, and then Ryan and I will expand it into a massive story that we can break into chapters and put in each one of these Skybound X books. And so we've been working on that quietly over the last year and a half or so, while he's been doing various Marvel things, and it's really cool. It's a completely separate Walking Dead universe that has aliens in it. It's a very fun and action-packed a really cool adventure that isn't in any way in continuity with The Walking Dead. So it doesn't ruin anything if you are a Walking Dead purist and don't want to see Rick Grimes cutting up aliens with a lightsaber. But if you don't want to see Rick Grimes cut up aliens with a lightsaber, I don't want to be your friend.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah,
That sounds dope.
Yeah, there was nothing in that sentence that I objected to at all.
Right, yes.
I just want to see him with the second hand again, so I'll read that.
Oh yeah, he's got a
lightsaber
second
as
hand
his second hand.
and he can shoot it off of his hand, and it's connected to a cable, and it retracts. And he
Get
can
over here!
It's the best. Yeah. His hand is basically Scorpion's spear.
I got to get a question in from the comments. People have heard you now talking about zombies, I mean, superheroes, aliens. Some people have spotted, and we talked about the poster in the background of your shot. For people who are not watching and listening, it's Transformers the movie, the 1986 movie. So people are wondering, when are we going to get a giant robot story from you?
I will say there are giant robots in the Rick Grimes 2000 story that's in Skybound X, which is very cool. I don't know. I mean, at some point I will. It's also possible that there is a transforming giant robot at some point in season 1 of Invincible. So look for that.
Oh, there it is.
This has been awesome. Thank you for offering up so much information.
That's
on
the money
everything.
tease right there, man.
You're an
I can't
awesome
wait to see
interview.
Comicbook.com turn every individual soundbite into an article.
Yeah.
That is what we do. That is what we are doing.
That is exactly what I do.
That's totally
Keep it up, Jim Biscardi.
Robert, I mean, so we're talking about Invincible, and we've brought up like the movie and stuff like that. And I know you can't say much about that, but I feel like the animated series is the first time that the show, or the show, I guess it is a show now. The series is really getting like widespread appeal or widespread attention. And the last time that happened with The Walking Dead, then it turned into a huge media property, video games, and all this stuff. I have to ask because I'm a gaming writer on our staff. This isn't even an ask. This is a request, me pleading to you because we have you here on the show for a few minutes. If you make an Invincible video game, I think it has to be a fighting game. I have thought about this in my head for the last 8 years or something like this. How could they make an Invincible game? What is the best way to do this? Fighting game to me seems like the best way to go. I have nothing else to say. If you want to respond to that, I just need to throw that out there and make sure somebody heard it with Poll over at Skybound to get an Invincible fighting game to be a thing. And let's see it at EVO one day.
We're getting a nod.
This show is used.
I'm a huge fighting game guy. I loved. I grew up on Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat. I love the Tekken series. I think it would be absolutely perfect. Marvel versus Capcom, like those kind of things. You want to have those, like there's 80 characters over here and 80 characters over here, and you can pick those characters and make them fight. I think that'd be really cool. I think that would be really cool, I think is all I can say right now.
Yeah, I know you can't say anything about it. I just wanted to plant a nugget in your head for maybe in the future. Be like, what did that guy bring up to me on a podcast one time? Are we doing a video game now?
I will say that I am such a fan of fighting games. The planting of that nugget was unnecessary.
Hey, well, don't worry. Don't worry. If it happens, we got an article for every single fighter ready to go. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
wait.
I think that's about all the time we have. I think we got to let Robert go. Logan, did you have one more question before we get out of here?
I did, but if he's got if it's
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
in the
Let's
weeds.
do it.
All right.
Do it.
The one thing that I really loved about the first episode specifically, because I feel like that's been the biggest episode for so many people with Invincible, is that there was a lot of action in the episode, but you guys intentionally held off on the gore until the very ending. How obviously intentional was it to make the reveal at the end a double-edged reveal of not only, something's not up right with Omni-Man like you're thinking, but also this is a incredibly violent, gory series.
Yeah, it was very difficult. It was written in the script specifically, there's no gore, yada, yada, yada. I also tried to keep the profanity to an absolute minimum. I wanted you to be watching that episode going, they said it was mature. There was a warning at the beginning of the episode.
That's exactly what I was doing.
My kids to watch this. I don't know what. And then you go, when you get to the end. There was actually some animation that came back where Steve, the character that John Hamm plays, his arm is stepped on by the Mauler twins and it breaks and there's like blood shooting everywhere. And I had to have them redo that. because I didn't want you to see any kind of blood or anything leading to that
so
that
smart.
last scene. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work, making sure that everything was, I mean, even the Titan fight, I mean, that could have been a little bit more violent. I mean, as you watch the rest of the season, it's like, oh yeah, no, like people should have been getting their arms ripped off in the alleyway. But yeah, I wanted that. And the last sequence, I mean, I'm so excited about it. It turned out so much better than I could have ever imagined. It is so unrelentingly like gory and over the top. Like it's the best button I've ever had on the end of any episode that I've ever done. The animators did such an amazing job on that sequence. And I think because like, even if it was just here, it would have been kind of startling. And I'm making a hand motion about halfway up the screen. But the fact that they put it like way up here at the top, I think really delivered, and I'm really happy with how that episode has been received, and those animators don't get nearly enough credit.
Yeah. Also, by the way, just have to mention that soundtrack slaps.
Oh, awesome! Great to hear.
Like episode 5, like there's like a whole sequence in episode 5. I was like, oh my god, I could listen to this on repeat. I don't even need to watch it. I just need to listen to it. It's great.
I had absolutely nothing to do with it.
I just had to give props where props are due.
Final props I gotta give is all the hard work paid off, because I came to this just as the show, and I watched that first episode, and I was like, okay, so it's like the 2000s Justice League cartoons. Okay, and then I'm watching that final sequence, and I was like, it's just like the 2000 Justice League cartoons. Yeah, no. And then at the end, I was like, it's not like the 2000 Justice League cartoons. So great job. But it also got me hooked. And I've been in ever since. So we got to let Robert Kirkman go. We want to thank you for coming on, and hope you come back with any one of the several thousand projects you may have in circulation in the coming weeks and months. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Great.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right. That was Mr. Robert Kirkman. If you guys are not checking out Amazon's Invincible, you really need to. There's a couple of things on Amazon right now you need to be checking out. We'll get to more on that later, but definitely every Friday, a new episode of Invincible is released. Jump into this show if you have not yet.
I gotta say, it's my favorite superhero show.
Yeah, right now, like me too.
Yeah.
It quickly has become. And when Friday comes, I'm just like, oh, I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I know is coming, but for me personally, at the end of the day, I'm just like kicking back, and I'm like, all right, Invincible time.
Yeah.
Same.
So, all right. Moving right along. That got awkward because now we got to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I think, Rob, we got to take a break and pay some bills first. So we're going to reorder things a little bit. We're going to take a break, come back, and then we are going to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier and some other news, plus a lot of the wrestling WWE NXT recap. So stay tuned for all of that. And we want to thank Logan Moore for coming on and helping us out with that Robert Kirkman interview.
Of course. Yeah.
We're going to have to get you back for a longer episode so you can actually, get in here to do it. We got a packed show today, though. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll get back on here once the Invincible fighting game's coming out or something.
Yeah.
We definitely do victory laps on this show. So we'll definitely have you on for that. Thanks, man.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Now we have a new co-host joining us because he's going to help us talk about wrestling and so much more. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Connor Casey.
It's your boy.
from his bunker.
From the bunker.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going, guys? Love the Kirkman interview.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we try to do big things on this. So we're going to get to wrestling in a bit. We got a couple little things to talk about just in the news. Then we're going to talk a little bit about a comic. Have you guys seen the new Army of the Dead trailer?
Mm-hmm.
Zack Snyder's new film coming
Absolutely.
to Netflix. We're just going to go around and kind of, there's been a lot of, I don't want to say secrecy. We knew what this movie was about, but we haven't seen anything like it. I don't know if it was because he had to finish Justice League and do all that before they could start promoting that. But trailer finally came out. Let's just go around real quick, see what you guys thought about it. I'm going to be there. You know me. I don't have to sell myself on Snyder movies. So, I'm going to watch it. But what did the rest of you guys think? Janelle, as a Walking Dead expert, how did you feel about this?
Oh, man. Very excited. It was really nice to see Zack Snyder again. I feel like we're getting that Zack Snyder itch scratched. Is that weird to say? I don't know. Very excited to see him back, to have like something else to kind of tune into and see his style a bit more playful, obviously, than his Justice League cut that just came out. Lots of really funny moments. And if you guys haven't seen it, I hope this isn't too much. I mean, it was in the trailer, it's a spoiler, but these walkers, aka zombies, are next level. They've got some crazy stuff going on that I've always thought of. Like, I would love to see kind of an evolved zombie walker capable of communicating with one another in some way, banding together and becoming like the ultimate scary villains showdown. So it felt like they gave us a lot of information in a short amount of time. We get the backstory of our main character. We get the entire storyline of like why they are doing what they're doing. Zombies are. So I really cannot complain, and I'm pumped about this.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt?
I will jump in. I mean, I wouldn't say the zombie genre is like, I'm kind of hit and miss with it. I love some parts of it, and I don't love others. But I loved this because it's all the best parts of Snyder, which is his movies are gorgeous. The action looks crazy, looks awesome, and but it's fun. It's the over the top fun. People are making little witty comments here and there, and it's just the action. It's just in your face, and that stuff I love. I mean, that's kind of part of why I like Sucker Punch, and even like parts of Watchmen are like more lighthearted. So like I love that. So this was like right up my alley. Like, I'll watch this. I didn't really have a ton of interest before seeing the trailer, and plus I'll probably watch Batista in almost anything. But like it was good. I dug it a lot.
All right, let's see. Connor, you have any thoughts?
I've made my issues with Snyder Superman well known on this show, but his action is always fun, and it's got Big Dave, so I'm definitely gonna watch it for that.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted here because this new F9 trailer dropped while we were doing our thing, and so I'm just checking this out real quick because somebody in the comments asked us to look at it. So my real-time reaction is, yeah, this is a Fast and Furious movie, and it's pretty much like a Fast and Furious
I have
movie.
not watched it yet, so we will have to talk about this next time.
Oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty funny. There's a lot of kind of gags.
Like, is someone riding a torpedo?
I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I mean, you say that, and I can't ever see it. So let's see what the big finale. There's a big truck flip that's like Dark Knight, Hold My Beer. Yeah, there's a big military truck flip. The car apparently going off the cliff is not the biggest selling point right now. That's just small potatoes.
That's nothing to Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Oh, they do at the end. They reveal the space thing. Yeah. Fast and Furious is going into space.
Yeah, it is.
We heard this, or at least low orbit with a car that has a space rockets.
Yeah, it does.
With Ludacris and Tyrese piloting it. So there you go.
I love these stupid movies.
I mean, me too.
I love them, and I am so in.
How are you gonna love this more than the Justice League Zack Snyder cut?
Because one does not take itself seriously in the least, and one takes itself super seriously and doesn't know when to laugh. That's why it's a car going to space. If you take that seriously, then you've lost the whole point.
Yeah. So F9 trailer is also out. Check that out. Comicbook.com movies. That's a trip right there. Real quick, we're also just going to get around to Falcon and Winter Soldier's coming up. Last 2 episodes. Who do you guys have as the power broker? Let's hear your theories real quick. I'm rating up right now that Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio, could be the power broker, which is my favorite theory so far.
Don't you give me that hope.
It would make a lot of sense. We've been told there's a big actor coming to cameo. Now, I know, guys.
A Jedi level
We've
cameo?
been told this before, and if there's like a second Winter Soldier clone, I'll be pissed. But like, I mean, I don't think they're WandaVisioning us on this one. I think there is going to be a big appearance because we do have a big mystery villain that's been at the center of all this. I like the Kingpin theory because Vincent D'Onofrio is somebody that fans have wanted to keep this role. It would be easy to import into the MCU. It fits with a lot of Kingpin storylines of past and present. Kingpin is now even running his own team of Thunderbolts, which would be awesome to see in the MCU, that version. Because we read that comic at Comic Book Nation, and we told you guys how good that was during King in Black, the whole Kingpin's Thunderbolts run. And there needs to be, remember, we've been talking about the MCU having these 3 different lanes for Phase 4, the cosmic stuff, the reality stuff, and which may not even be a thing. I don't even know yet. And the kind of organized crime, espionage underworld that is running after the blip. And Kingpin would be a key character for not just being the power broker and doing all of that, but also kind of connecting back to something like Shang-Chi and the Mandarin and the Legend of the Ten Rings, anything that's going on with Hawkeye and that whole thing. And kind of Kingpin kind of trying to sponsor his own, supervillains to rival superheroes would be pretty cool way to bring him into the MCU. And he has connections all over the world. We know he's been to Asian countries and spent a lot of time there. So Madripoor, all that stuff would make sense. I'm hoping for Kingpin. Who y'all got with your lesser theories?
You just sold me on Kingpin. I can't even follow that. I can't even imagine anybody else now. It's like Kingpin or bust. Matt, do you have any ideas?
So I am not doing what we did for WandaVision. I'm not going down Reddit holes. I'm not doing any of that because they fool me every time, and it's never that. Now, if it's Kingpin, that would be great. Let's put that out there. Vincent D'Onofrio is fantastic as the character, whatever. But I'm not getting my hopes up for that. So if I had to say like some of the things I've seen about like Sharon Carter actually secretly being the broker and like, hey, I said I wasn't, but heck, hey, I am, like, that kind of thing. That's interesting. I don't have any like firm theories, but I do like the Kingpin thing. I'm not saying it's happening. I'm just saying I like it.
Connor, you usually have no kind of stomach for this nonsense. How do you feel?
Well, I think the Sharon theory doesn't make a lot of sense because you've seen what she's done so far in the series, and she would be sabotaging herself over and over if she were helping, Bucky and Falcon out as much as she already has. I'm going to go with Thunderbolt Ross. It's one of the few twists that would kind of make sense. Like my jaw would be on the floor if it were Kingpin. I would absolutely love that. But if we're talking, characters that we already know are in this world and somebody who, if you brought him in, that would mean that the Thunderbolts are probably coming, bringing in General Ross makes a lot of sense.
That's true.
Yeah. Commenters are also saying Elektra, Elodie Jung, could be back as Elektra because she became the leader of the Hand, and the Hand could be.
Didn't she die in Defenders though?
No, she became the leader of the Hand. Yeah, I thought it could be Sigourney Weaver's character back, but she died in the Defenders.
And that show was bad, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then Elektra took over, and I don't think Elektra died in Daredevil season 3. So yeah, she's still out there, and the Hand could still be out there, and they could be at the center of all this too.
I do love Madame Gao, by the way.
Madame Gao. Oh wow,
I do love that.
Yeah, Madame Gao was the best. So
I do love that. So highlight, the comment they're pointing.
She just
that
comes
out.
limping in at the end. I would lose it too.
That would be cool.
Yeah. And the ladies have been getting some standout meme moments in Falcon and Winter Soldier, so why not? Let's keep it going. All right. Well, then we're going to find out this week in Phase Zero podcast. I'm sure we'll be all over this on Friday when it comes out. Power Broker will be Mysterio. Somebody said you guys are the best.
Just
surprised nobody
Jake
dropped
Gyllenhaal.
the best though. Yeah, I'm
Not
surprised
Mysterio,
nobody,
just Jake Gyllenhaal. Like Jake Gyllenhaal reacting to Sean Paul lyrics. That's what it needs to be.
Sean Paul.
Oh, that's great. All right, moving right along from this nonsense to more nonsense. Matt, let's touch on comics before we get into wrestling. We just got one comic to really focus on this week, correct?
Yep. So we have Batman, the Detective #1, which is from, I will say, one of my favorites. I'm pretty sure one of Connor's favorites too, Tom Taylor and Andy Kubert. So this is a kind of like out of continuity tale. Very, very much reminded me, by the way, spoilers coming in for this. It very much reminded me of kind of what we wanted All-Star. Does anyone else remember All-Star Batman and Robin from Frank Miller?
God,
Okay.
God,
why would you bring that up?
Yeah.
Because when I was reading this, I went, oh man, this is what I wanted that to be. This is what I kind of wanted, like a grizzled, older Batman. He's kind of, he's on this like European adventure and he's, there's a lot of that kind of meta stuff of like, man, I'm older. Like he's recounting like his ribs breaking and things like that. And I'm not as fast as I used to be. It's that kind of story. It's kind of out of continuity, but it's really interesting. I mean, I actually really dug in. I also like that it's kind of exploring, Europe. It takes him out of Gotham. It takes him out of even the United States and really puts him with like Knight and Squire and some interesting characters that always kind of pop up every now and then. But I like this. Also, I will say I missed Andy Kubert art. I have a soft spot for Andy's art, and it looks really good here. There's a couple pages where I'm like, that looks kind of odd, but overall, I was like, it's cool. It's cool. So that's kind of the idea here. I dug it though, because I was looking at it. I was like, oh man, there's no crazy curses. Batman's not cursing his Robin. He's not being this awful person. It was cool. So that's how I look at it. What did you guys think?
I mean, as a '90s comic book kid, I didn't look at it because I had to read it in the middle of the night while I was waiting for my kid to fall asleep, and so I just kind of scrolled past the cover and I started reading it. And I was like, man, this feels so familiar. And when I went back to the cover and saw Andy Kubert, I was like, oh, it's Andy, right? Not Adam.
Yeah, it's Andy.
Yeah, it's Andy. Yeah, that is. And if you were a '90s kid, not to create Kubert brother rivalries, but Andy was he was the GOAT back then whenever he drew stuff. So yeah, it was nice to see him on Batman, and it was a good feel. And like you, it's good that I now know. I didn't know it was out of continuity, but I was just taking it as like an Elseworlds or whatever. But it is good to see it, and it is kind of this kind of grizzled, more noir Batman, and I like that it lives up to its title in that it is clearly going to be more of a detective case than a superhero hijinks case. So that was, and we have, because we also got this week Joker #2, which is along the same lines of being kind of a detective story, but much more of a comic booky detective story than this was. And so I think I made it clear during Future State that I like Dark Detective and this kind of new low rent Batman type deal that you can kind of do. And I like getting into the investigative stuff. So this was cool for me.
That's cool. Janelle?
Yeah, I mean, it's you've said this to me a few times. If the first issue can kind of pull you in and make you want to keep reading the series, then it's doing its job, and that's what it did for me. I liked the artwork. I enjoyed his narration. At times I was like, okay, I get it. Like you're cracking a rib. Like it's interesting. It's a different style that I'm kind of starting to get used to, but also it's not too wordy, so it's an easy read. If it's not too long or drawn out. I feel like the pacing is really nice, and yeah, I thought it was good. I'm actually really excited to read the rest of the series and see where it's going.
Connor, did you get a chance to read this or not? I know we've been crazy.
I haven't had, but I'll read anything Tom Taylor writes. So
understand. I'm right there. There's a one. My favorite actual sequence in the book is between Knight and him, and they're in the hospital, and she's like, and he's talking about he met Squire ahead of that, and she's like, did you? Like I can't remember how she says it, but like, did you impress her or did you like blow her socks off or whatever? And he was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, come on. And he's like, I punched the ghost. And there was that smirk. And I was like, that, I love that Batman.
He knows
like,
he's cool. Yeah.
Just a little of it. Not so much.
Well, Batman's like Wu-Tang. He does it for the children.
Yeah, that's a great man. That's awesome. So that's why I will say, Kofi mentioned Joker 2. I also read that, and also there's a lot in that book, by the way, that they reveal. There's a lot of stuff in there. If you're not reading that, and you're kind of reading the other Bat books, like that is when you actually really should be reading, because there's some big, developments in kind of the Bat family that happen in that book. But I also really like that too. I like that they're staying on the Gordon thing. Like we're not veering back to like just making it a Batman Joker book. It's still really about Gordon. So I really took that.
No, Joker's good. Yeah, Joker.
Also, quick shout out, because I would be remiss if I did not say that Darkhawk, Heart of the Hawk, 30th anniversary one shot of this character. Here's the thing: you don't really need to read the whole thing. The second story, there's 3 stories. First story you can really skip. Second story is fun if you're a Darkhawk fan, but the third story is from Kyle Higgins and it sets the table for the next series that is coming, because there is a Darkhawk ongoing series, or at least a mini series coming later this year. So if you are interested in what's to come, I thought that was really interesting. It's just a couple pages. It's the shortest thing in the book, but that is worth checking out. Also, quick tease here before we move on to wrestling related stuff. On the audio version of this podcast, you can hear my conversation with Captain Marvel, Black Widow writer, and Deadpool writer, one of my favorite runs of Deadpool, Kelly Thompson, will be on here. So we have a whole long talk. We talk about, we do talk about all the Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange romance stuff that definitely gets addressed. We talk about all that stuff, and we have a long conversation. So make sure to stick around if you're listening to the audio show.
All right. Before we move on, I also want to mention Batman the Detective. What really got me is the premise of the conflict, which is that somebody is going around killing people that Batman has saved,
right,
in mass numbers in certain cases, which is a good mind screw for Batman. And I really want to see where that goes. All right. Wrestling. I'm going to sit back. Connor, Matt, Connor's hands are probably like crippled with arthritis right now from typing all this stuff up, because it was a busy week in wrestling, to say the least. But I would like to say this show had a hand in helping to crown some new champions, and just want to let you know what happens if anybody out there appears on the show, especially in the wrestling community.
He wasn't wrong.
He was not wrong.
He was not wrong.
All right, yes, Kofi, we did have WrestleMania weekend. It was basically an entire week of different wrestling shows. We get to the big show on Saturday. They managed to escape some serious rain delays from the good old weather down in Tampa, Florida. They probably should have known what they were getting into on that front, but we were delivered 2 nights of action in front of a live crowd for the first time in 13 months. Was very missed. I loved that we actually had live fans back and they were able to react to things, and it wasn't just a wall of screens called the Thunderdome. Matt, I wanted to start off by asking you, what were your favorite moments from both nights?
Night one is easy. Night one is Bianca and Sasha. That to me is, and I will admit, by the way, there's a moment that plays, and you probably, if you follow some of them on Twitter, you've probably seen it. But before that match even starts, Bianca's already tearing up a little bit, and she looks at the crowd, and it's this emotional moment. Sasha looks out there, and it's just like everything about this. It's crazy. I haven't loved the build to this match a lot. Like there's a lot of missing things here. However, none of that crap mattered. They delivered such a great match, and they told such a great story in the ring that all of that faded away. And I saw the comment, like, do I think it's too soon? No. I thought they told a great story in the ring. This was the right move. It lets Sasha, kind of keep going as a heel if she wants to, and there's new blood, I'm sure, coming soon. So like Bianca as the champ, I think is the right move. And Sasha's gonna be fine. Like Sasha's gonna have plenty of stuff to do. But at this moment, like I got a little teary-eyed. I ain't gonna lie. Towards the end of this, like seeing all that emotion and stuff was amazing. So that was clearly for me the match of night one. What was yours?
I'm gonna match you on that. I thought the main event was outstanding. I love the story that it's told. I thought that night one in general escaped the fact that this was a horribly built up show in many respects, especially the Sasha Bianca match, how most of it's surrounded around a guy named Reginald who didn't even appear on the show and is barely mentioned in the hype package leading up to it. Night two, I think, is where a lot of that bad storytelling caught up with them, especially with a few matches. We'll get to that. But no, you could tell they recognized that the moment was huge. And then I love how the simple story of the crafty villain keeps trying to find ways to take down this powerhouse newcomer, and it eventually backfires on her with that spot with the hair and then the finish. And it was all brilliant. But shout out to Bad Bunny for having probably the greatest celebrity match I've ever seen. And that
over Pat?
Over Pat. That's a high bar.
Yeah.
But man, that was all I could say at the end of that match was that was fun. You could tell he is just having an absolute blast in there when he hits the Canadian Destroyer outside the ring.
Wait, time out.
Yes.
Are you talking about Bad Bunny, the musical artist?
Yes.
That Bad Bunny, yes.
You didn't know about this, Kofi? Even I knew about this.
No,
exactly.
You can be
Which
smarter.
just
You can be,
proves again.
you can be smarter than me. Yes, you can know things that I
No,
don't
not
know.
smarter.
No, but I'm saying like
up on
Bad
the
Bunny's
pop culture.
reach. Like it's crazy. Like that has been a common debate in the wrestling thing of like, why is he here? It's exactly because like everybody knows that name.
And he's a huge star.
And leading up to him
right
being
now.
on, people were dogging it. Like they were pissed.
No,
and
he
now,
man, my man loves wrestling. He did that SNL appearance with the belt on his
with
lap.
the,
Yeah.
24/7 title, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Now you had my attention, but now you have my interest.
It was really fun.
Ooh.
Definitely, if you weren't watching, watch the whole thing, but go back and watch that match, obviously, because it's pretty outstanding. But then we get to night 2. There was some foolishness, Matthew, but what did you enjoy about the show? And I always make you laugh when I call you Matthew.
Yeah, I know, it always makes me laugh. Okay, so I'm gonna say again, the main event. I feel like that's a plate. I feel like I should pick a deeper cut.
Right,
but
right.
but the main event was fantastic, and I know the ending is divisive. Some people hate it, some people love it. I mean, you have 3 huge stars that all, credit to SmackDown, all had a legit like claim that they could have won and a storyline that they could have run with after that. But no, man, it makes Roman look like the beast he's supposed to be. Like him pinning both. I know people hate that. I loved it. I love that shot. Like everything about that. That was a great match. They've had great encounters on SmackDown for the last few weeks.
I saw that shot on Twitter and I had questions first.
What question?
I was like, because I just saw the image and I was like, what am I looking at here? Is this a site I'm supposed to be on? And I was like, oh yeah, no.
He's stacking bodies, yeah.
I thought that was great.
It's a great. WWE is all about their visuals. Vince McMahon is very much like, what is the visual that this is all leading to? And the visual of Roman stacking his 2 unconscious opponents on top of each other and then pinning them both was the best possible visual you could ever come up with to make him look like a god tier level, villain, the final boss for the company. They absolutely nailed that. I thought the match itself was fantastic. The 2 main events we had this weekend, I would put them up against any that we've had in the last decade.
Yeah.
And it's up there.
They were great.
The Daniel Bryan guy gets pushed in at the last minute, had some spots where I jumped out of my seat, and I'm in a box, so this is hard to do. But when he and Edge are both have Roman locked into submission, and Bryan just looks at him and just starts headbutting him, and then a little more, and then really hard, and you're like, oh my God. It's fantastic.
Moment where they both are trying to with the like crowbar, the piece of the chair, and they're both trying to make Roman tap,
and it's just like, let go. No, you.
And they're both on either side. It's flipping great. It's a great visual. It's a great angle. Someone was like, get that on camera and move with that. That was great. Yeah. So that was
but we need to get to probably the biggest conversation that's coming out of the show, other than Raw just being really bad, is the last 2 WrestleManias were both 2 nights long. That is a first. One, because the pandemic had shut everything down, so they did it in front of an empty arena. This time they did it because it was the first time fans were back. So I'll ask you this, Matt. Should this be the standard going forward? Should it always be 2 nights? Should it be an entire WrestleMania weekend?
As much as this is a pain in the rear for me, because we have to cover this 2 nights.
Workload is considerable, yes.
As opposed to 1. I love this. And I loved it last time, and I understand why they did it both times, right? Okay. If they go back to the 1 night format, that's fine. I'm not going to hold, like, it's not like I'm saying like, no, they should, and how dare they? But I enjoy this. I think it actually lends, like, even though night 2 was significantly less than night 1, you're able to cover. You're able, one, to give some matches more time. Like Cesaro Rollins gets time because it's spread out over 2 nights. If that's all on one night, I feel like that match gets gypped because you're fitting in a ton of matches. Now, granted, there have been plenty of examples of WrestleMania's done on one night and they do it right and whatever. I'm not saying it can't be done. But what I'm saying is, in WWE's current format and with the amount of talent that are on this roster and trying to get so many into the show, I actually think 2 nights works better because if you book it right, you get 2 great main events. So you walk off with a great feeling from both. And then you give us some matches that wouldn't have their time some extra breathing room. And I think that's actually good overall. So while it is a pain for me, I will say I actually like the 2-night format.
Some fair points, but I've got 3 that go against it.
Boom.
Number 1,
Give them here.
in the last 2 years, I look at both cards and I can pick at least 5 matches between the two that I can consider filler, that had little to no story going into them, that did not need to be on the show. Some were added at the very last minute.
Fair.
And if you had cut them, you would lose nothing. Number 2, what was the first thing we did in our predictions? And what was the first story that came out the moment night 2 was over? Comparing night 1 to night 2. We were immediately pitting the two against each other. So all the good that night 2 included, Cesaro Rollins, that main event, it's tarnished by the fact that first hour was pretty awful.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And so when everyone thinks of WrestleMania 37, they're not going to think of, wow, that Reigns triple threat was great. They're going to think of, oh, night 1 was so much better than night 2. And it unnecessarily pits 2 things against each other. So you just kind of feel bad for the night that did poorly, even if you weren't involved in one of the bad matches.
True.
And number 3, I see this argument now that you can only do this one of 2 ways. You can either have a WrestleMania that is the length of 2 Snyder cuts. 35 got pretty close to it. We were coming up on 8 hours. We were creeping up there. Or you split it over 2 nights. And my thing is, you really can have it where it's just one show and it's not a marathon to sit through. I will take you back to the one WrestleMania that everyone says is the gold standard. It's the best one. It's the one every other one is compared to. WrestleMania 17 from 2001. Just turned 20 years old. 4 hours. A 30-minute main event. One of the best tag team matches of all time. And plenty of people from every spot of the roster made some sort of appearance. It can be done.
True.
You just got to do it. You just got to make it work.
Now,
It
2
is
things.
Go for it.
One, and then I know we got to get to NXT because we got a lot of stuff to cover there. But
Oh, yeah.
number 1, Sasha Banks is a standard. Thank you much. Not gold standard. You said gold standard. She's a
Gold
standard.
standard. She's blue.
She is a standard. She's a blue standard.
She's blue and green.
Number 2, I agree with you. I will actually note there was a comment here about crowd fatigue, which is real. Like that's
35 is a perfect example. That's a good show, pretty much start to finish. It's just too bloody long.
It's too long. Now, what I will say in response to the way people's memories work, I don't think 2 years from now anyone's talking about night 2 and night 1. That's not how especially wrestling fans. I will say that as a wrestling fan, when I think of WrestleManias and I think of things, I don't really think of them as I think of them as all one big event. I don't really say, like, even last year's WrestleMania, I don't think of split in cards and stuff. It's all what were the best matches of the night, and those matches stick around in my brain. So I don't really think people's memories, some do, obviously, but most people are just going to go, what were the best matches of that night? What was the worst thing? And they're going to remember those things. And they're really not going to remember. It's all going to become one big night over time. So I don't think that is going to hurt in the long run.
And my counter to that would be that there are some WrestleManias that have legitimately great matches on them, but they're labeled as forgettable because it was on a bad otherwise pay-per-view. WrestleMania 29. Great. CM Punk, Undertaker versus match. Nobody remembers it because the main event let him down.
It's true. But Trace Busta, I don't have anything. I just wanted to say that. All right, so we got to move over to NXT. There's a lot to take over. Stand and Deliver also had a 2-night event. And so for you, Connor, I will put the same question. What was the night one? What was the match of the night for you? I feel like I know.
It's Walter was night one, correct?
Yes.
Oh my God. Walter is the perfect wrestler. He is so much fun. Every match he is in is amazing. He took his hand and chopped a table in half. That's how big his chops are. He wins every single match in a different way. He is just an absolute powerhouse, and every time he's on screen, I have to be watching. He is so much fun. I have no idea if they are ever going to use him on the main roster. My hands are up on the air on that guess.
Please no.
But every time he is, it's fantastic. I know exactly where they're going with him next, and I cannot wait.
It's so hard not to agree with you because that match was phenomenal, and that is the best that Tommaso has looked. Like, just because he was just into it. You know what I mean? It's not anything. I mean, he's a great wrestler. So he's been doing great stuff with the things he's been doing. But, like, he was in on that. You know what I mean? It felt like he was just in that sweet zone. And he just, they both killed that. I am bummed that Walter's going to move back over to UK for a little bit. But, you know, Triple H has even said, like, we hope to get him back over here soon. Yeah. So I will say for me, it was Io and Raquel. But more so, not necessarily because the match was better than Walter and Tommaso, but the fact that, like, I was so, and anyone who's in our chat during wrestling coverage knows this already. I was very much like, I'm ready for that era to start. I was kind of ready for that new page because Io's been great, but I haven't been in love with her reign as champion. So I was kind of ready for that. I've been very much like, Raquel's getting better and better, and she's ready at this point. I was ready for that to happen. So the fact that it happened, it was a great match. I really enjoyed it. But I will say, like, I think that part of it was what sold it to me the most, especially since yesterday's NXT, we get the sweet, sweet moment of all three, like Rhea, Bianca, and Raquel, like, being on NXT. They all, of course, were in NXT, and now they're all champions.
The new wave of champions, yeah.
So good. Oh,
Fantastic
so good. I
moment.
lost my mind. So that was for me. What about night two?
Night two, I'm going to go with Carry On versus Finn. The main event's good, and if you like that style of just car crash match, it's fine. But the problem is it's 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's a long one.
And you could have cut out 10. But I love the story that Balor and Cross told because you thought that Cross was just going to steamroll him. You know, he said it on the show. He might have well just decapitated him. That didn't happen. Finn came out and got in a ton of offense because he figured out, hey, what's the fast way to slow this guy down? Kick him in the liver. That works. It did.
Yeah, that works. It's very effective. It's incredibly effective.
It was, and you thought for a good chunk of that match, hey, Finn might retain here, and we might just see Cross on Raw come Monday. Like it was possible, but then Cross just kind of kicks it into a new gear and knocks the poor guy out, and I dug it. And it made Finn look strong. It made him look better than Keith did coming out of Cross's last title win last summer.
Yeah,
which I think is important.
That's
because true. I think I know where Finn's going next. And it was a match that was promised to us last year, and it's going to be a match of the year contender if it happens. And it is Finn versus Walter, probably in Ireland.
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
Which would be amazing. Yeah, that pandemic kind of postponed that. No one could travel, but that was what was being set up. We already had promos, and then it had to get delayed. But I will say it actually all worked out for the best. I agree. I thought this story, that was also my favorite match of the night, just because, again, it was the storytelling. Was fantastic. It was all the smirks on Finn's face and how every time he smiled, Cross would get so annoyed. And it was that constant thing of like, I can figure you out because like Finn's a great wrestler, right? Oh, I will say it helped that like even on here, when Cross was here on Comic Book Nation and also like in the pre-press conference and things, he talks about Finn so like respectively, he's very respectful of Finn. He's very much like he's a great wrestler. He's the best NXT champ, but like I still feel like I can beat him. It was the way he was talking about him, as opposed to like he's nothing, he's whatever. It's kind. I like that Cross like acknowledges reality and then takes that and like they go off to the races with all their supernatural stuff. I like that.
Right.
So for me, I agree. I think Finn Walter is next. I will say, I feel like NXT, here were two things I want to say for the entire weekend as a whole and this week, because it kind of includes this week. One, Bayley was freaking robbed.
Yes.
I cannot believe that we got through the entire WrestleMania weekend and Bayley did not have a match.
She got slapped because she brought up John Cena.
By the freaking Bella Twins?
Weren't you entertained?
No, I wasn't. I was so mad.
What?
Bayley has been arguably the MVP of 2020 of the women's division on SmackDown and Raw, just period. And for her to just get a couple of little segments, they were fine. The NWO one was funny, but come on. No, she needed a match. I don't even care if you just slap her together with whoever. She deserved a match. So that was robbery. Number two, I will agree with Connor. The Way has been really entertaining on NXT. And there was an 8-man tag match last night. It was a mixed match. And it was so fun. It was the same thing as Bad Bunny vibes. It was just fun, ridiculous. They did crazy spots and they just had fun with it. And it needs more. I want to see more of that in NXT.
My last comment is Logan Paul took a stunner, and I've watched that on loop at least 20 times.
Yeah, we had Logan Paul and Bad Bunny on WrestleMania.
Oh my God! And what happened to Logan Paul? He got hurt?
No, he just got he got stunned. He got taken out. Got a nice stone cold stunner for his troubles.
First the Masked Singer, now this. All right.
So that's wrestling.
All right, that'll do it for that. If you are listening to the audio of this show, please stick around. Matt sits down with Kelly Thompson to talk a whole bunch of comic book goodness. So be sure to listen to that on the audio version of this podcast. For all our people in the live video feed, that'll do it for this show. We just want to do some quick mentions before we get out of here. I want to just shout out. I told you at the beginning of the show when we talked to Robert Kirkman, which you can rewind and see that interview. It's at the very beginning of the show, that there's some things on Amazon you should check out. Invincible is definitely one of them. The other one is Them, the new horror kind of anthology series that is kind of in the vein of Jordan Peele's Get Out. It's about kind of a black family who moves into Compton, California back in the 1950s when it was very much still an all-white neighborhood. And it's about their house is also haunted, but it's about the horrors of racism and, supernatural stuff kind of colliding. And it's Leah Waite. I forget I always mess up her name. But it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch. I mean, it is scary on a different kind of level because there is a lot of history baked into this. And yeah, it's a hard, upsetting watch, but it was really good. And if you, depending on what the nature of your definition of horror is, it is a very strong horror offering. So Them on Amazon Prime, along with Invincible, I think you guys should check out.
For sure. I've got just a quick mention here. Power Rangers Dino Fury is the newest season of Power Rangers. I'm always going to rep Power Rangers on the show. However, I think it is slowly becoming, actually not even slowly, it's quickly becoming, we're 6 episodes in, it's quickly becoming my favorite Power Rangers season in a long time. It's fun. The cast is awesome. They're referencing things like Ranger lore from way back, and it's got the dinosaur theme, so it has all the nostalgia hits. It's really fun. So, I'm starting Ember out very early in the Power Rangers world. He's already watching episodes with me every Saturday morning. So I definitely recommend. Also, stick around on Comicbook.com later today and throughout the week. We will have a look at the new Moon Knight series coming from Jed McKay. And then we will also have some looks at Marvel United X-Men, the new board game coming from Simon and Spin Master Games. So check it out.
Otter, you just wrote something in you wanted to plug?
Yes, I just realized I'm wearing a Ted Lasso shirt. So if you're not watching Ted Lasso, bring some joy to your life and watch one of the best comedies.
It's so great.
Yeah, we done plugged Ted Lasso a couple weeks ago here because we all kind of got into it. But it's still good. So yeah, definitely.
I watched Thunder Force. Did anybody watch Thunder Force?
I haven't yet. I want to, but I haven't.
It's cute. It's cute. You can watch it with your kids, and it's just a fun movie.
All right, there you have it. Okay, so that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we go live every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. If you miss anything from the episode, it'll be right on any one of those platforms as soon as we are done. So if you missed the Kirkman interview, you can just wait a minute or so, and then you can go back to our YouTube feed or this Twitch feed or the Facebook feed and see it all for yourself. We are also on your favorite podcast platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all the big ones. And you can tell any smart home device to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and it'll just fire up for you. If you guys like the show, go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. We want to say, if you want to reach any of us, we also have the Comic Book Nation Twitter page, and you can find us at any of our little Twitter accounts here for the audio versions. I'm at Kofi Outlaw.
I'm Matt Aguilar, CB.
I'm at Janelle Wheeler.
And I'm at Connor Casey _CB.
We want to thank Mr. Robert Kirkman for coming on, Kelly Thompson for sitting down with us, Logan Moore, comic book gaming writer. Check out Comic Book Gaming for helping us out today, and Connor Casey for also stopping by to talk some wrestling. These shows are getting packed, but we love it. So that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We hope to see you guys next week. Be sure to check out Phase Zero podcast, our Marvel podcast Friday after you see Falcon and Winter Soldier to get the recaps on what happens with this big cameo reveal or not. Peace.
Peace.